I never thought I would come back to my hometown because of my parents' funeral. As I stood outside the church, I stared at the closed doors and whispered, I wasn't ready to lose both of you. People slowly arrived. Some hugged me. Others simply nodded. Nothing they said made the pain easier. Then I saw my older brother, Daniel. He walked toward me wearing a black suit. I'm sorry, I said quietly. He looked at me for a second before answering, we have a lot to do today. His cold voice surprised me. I nodded. I know. The funeral passed in silence. I could barely listen to the prayers. All I could think about were my parents smiling at family dinners, encouraging me when life became difficult. My mother always said, no matter what happens, you and Daniel must always stand together. I believed those words. After the service, everyone gathered at Mr. Harris's office. Mr. Harris, our parents' lawyer, placed several papers on the table. I know today is difficult, he said. But your parents asked me to read their will immediately after the funeral. Daniel folded his arms. Let's get this over with. Mr. Harris adjusted his glasses and began reading. At first everything sounded normal. Then my heart stopped. The family house, savings, investments, and business will pass to Daniel. I frowned. I waited for Mr. Harris to continue. Instead, he looked down at the papers. I raised my hand. Excuse me, what about me? The room became silent. Mr. Harris cleared his throat. You have been left your mother's jewelry box, several family photographs, and your father's old watch. I stared at him. That's it. I'm afraid so. I looked at Daniel. There has to be some mistake. Daniel laughed softly. No mistake. Our parents promised they would divide everything equally, I said. They changed their minds. I don't believe that. He leaned closer. Maybe they realized who actually stayed with them. His words felt like a knife. I visited whenever I could. You left. I left because of my job. You left us. I clenched my fists. That isn't true. Daniel shook his head. You always cared more about your own life. Aunt Susan stepped between us. Please. Today isn't the day to fight. I looked at her. I'm not fighting. I'm trying to understand. Daniel shrugged. There's nothing to understand. Mr. Harris spoke carefully. The documents appear to be legally signed. I lowered my eyes. Everything felt wrong. My parents had never treated me differently. Why would they now? After everyone left the office, I walked outside alone. Wait. I turned around. Emma stood behind me. She had been my closest friend before I moved away. I'm sorry, she said. Thanks. She hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. Did your parents ever tell you they were changing the will? No. She looked thoughtful. That's strange. Why? I visited your mother a few months ago. What did she say? She told me she hoped both her sons would stay close after she was gone. I felt my chest tighten. That sounds like her. Emma nodded slowly. Something doesn't feel right. What do you mean? I can't explain it yet. I looked at her. You think something happened? I don't know. She paused before speaking again. But your father was always very careful with important papers. What are you trying to say? I'm saying, don't stop asking questions. For the first time that day, I felt something other than grief. Confusion. Maybe even doubt. I looked back toward the lawyer's office. Daniel was already driving away. He didn't even look at me. I opened the small box containing my father's watch and held it tightly. I miss you, Dad, I whispered. If this is really what you wanted, I'll accept it. But deep inside, my heart refused to believe it. As I walked away from the town that had once felt like home, I realized I had not only buried my parents that day. I had lost my brother too. The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about what Emma had said. Don't stop asking questions. Those words stayed in my mind as I drove to my parents' house. For years, it had been the place where I felt safest. My mother always waited at the front door, and my father would wave from the garage. Now it was silent. When I reached the front door, I took out my old key. It didn't fit. I tried again. Nothing. Before I could knock, the door opened. Daniel stood there. What are you doing here? He asked. I came to collect a few of my things. You should have called first. I shouldn't need permission to enter my parents' house. He crossed his arms. This house belongs to me now. I looked at the new lock. You changed it already? Yes. So you really couldn't wait. I was protecting my property. Our parents were buried yesterday. And life moves on. His words made my stomach turn. I only want Dad's toolbox and a few photo albums. Daniel shook his head. You've already received what the will gave you. You know that's not what I mean. I know exactly what you mean. I took a deep breath. Daniel, why are you acting like this? He looked at me without emotion. Because you walked away years ago. I left for work. You left us. I called every week. That wasn't enough. I visited whenever I had vacation. You still weren't here. His voice grew louder. Mom needed help. Dad was getting sick. Who stayed? Me. I sent money. We didn't need your money. We were family. He laughed. Family? That's funny. Before I could answer, a familiar voice called out. Everything okay? It was Michael, our old neighbor. He walked over slowly. I heard shouting, he said. Daniel forced a smile. Just a family discussion. Michael looked at me. You all right? Not really. He sighed. Your parents loved both of you. Daniel quickly interrupted. This is private. Michael nodded. Fine. Just remember, anger doesn't fix anything. He walked away. Daniel looked back at me. You should leave. I'm not leaving without my things. You don't have any things here anymore. Then he closed the door. I stood there in silence. For a moment, I wanted to break the window and go inside. Instead, I turned around and walked away. A few streets later, I found Emma waiting outside a small cafe. She smiled gently. You look exhausted. I just lost the house too. What happened? I told her everything. She frowned. That doesn't sound like your parents. It doesn't. She stirred her coffee. Do you remember your father's workshop? Of course. He spent hours there. I smiled for the first time. He said nobody should touch his workbench. Emma nodded. And he always kept important papers nearby. You think I should look there? I think you should. I'm not even sure Daniel will let me inside. There may be another way. I looked at her. What do you mean? The workshop has a back entrance. I remembered immediately. Dad had built it himself years ago. I forgot about that. Emma smiled. I didn't. As we left the cafe, we saw Mrs. Green watering flowers outside her house. She waved at me. It's good to see you again. I wish it were under better circumstances. She gave me a sad smile. Your father often talked about you. He did. He said you would always come home one day. I swallowed hard. Thank you. She hesitated. I also remember seeing your father carrying several folders into the workshop a few months before he passed away. What kind of folders? I don't know. But he looked determined. Emma and I exchanged a quick glance. After Mrs. Green returned home, Emma quietly said, That's another reason to check the workshop. That evening, I walked behind the house. The old workshop was still standing. The back door was dusty, but it wasn't locked. I pushed it open. The room smelled of old wood and engine oil. Everything looked almost the same as I remembered. Dad's tools were still hanging on the wall. His workbench stood in the middle of the room. I slowly searched through old boxes. Most of them held broken tools, notebooks, and faded photographs. Then I noticed something strange. Several drawers had been pulled open. Papers were scattered across the floor. Someone had searched this place before me. Daniel. I whispered. My heartbeat became faster. If someone had gone through the workshop, they had been looking for something important. But what? I looked around the quiet room and knew one thing. This wasn't over. Somewhere inside this workshop, my father had left behind a secret. And I was going to find it. I returned to the workshop early the next morning. The sunlight came through the dusty windows as I looked around the room again. Dad, I whispered, if you left me something, help me find it. I searched every shelf. Nothing. I opened every drawer. Still nothing. Then I remembered something my father used to say. Asterisk, the safest place isn't the one everyone can see. Asterisk, I walked to his old workbench. It was heavy, scratched, and covered with years of paint marks. I ran my hand underneath it. My fingers touched something unusual. A small metal latch. What is this? I pulled it. With a soft click, a hidden compartment opened. My heart started racing. Inside was a sealed envelope. Across the front were 3 simple words. Asterisk asterisk for my son. That asterisk asterisk. It was my father's handwriting. My hands shook as I carefully opened it. Inside was a letter. I took a deep breath and began reading. Asterisk, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. Asterisk, my eyes filled with tears. Asterisk, I pray this letter never becomes necessary, but I fear someone may try to change my final wishes. Asterisk, I stopped reading. No. I continued. Asterisk, I love both of my sons equally. Everything your mother and I own should always be divided fairly. Asterisk, I felt my chest tighten. I knew it, I whispered. There was another document inside the envelope. It looked like a legal paper with signatures and official stamps. I quickly placed everything back inside the envelope and drove straight to Mr. Harris's office. He looked surprised when I entered. I wasn't expecting you. I found something. I handed him the envelope. He carefully opened it. As he read the letter, his expression changed. He looked at me. Where did you get this? My father's workshop. He picked up the legal document and adjusted his glasses. For several minutes, he said nothing. Finally, he looked up. This changes everything. What do you mean? This document is completely different from the will I read. My heart pounded. So my father didn't leave everything to Daniel. Mr. Harris slowly shook his head. No. He pointed to the paper. According to this, your parents divided everything equally. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Then how did the other will appear? I don't know. He frowned. But I can already see serious problems. What kind of problems? The signatures don't match perfectly. He looked at both documents side by side. And these dates are inconsistent. I sat down. So someone changed it. I can't make that accusation yet. But I can say this document deserves a full legal review. Just then, someone knocked on the office door. A woman walked in carrying a briefcase. Sorry I'm late, she said. Mr. Harris stood up. Perfect timing. He turned toward me. This is attorney Linda Brooks. She smiled politely. It's nice to meet you. Mr. Harris handed her both documents. I need your opinion. She spent several minutes reading every page. Finally, she looked at me. Who found this? I did. Where? In my father's hidden compartment. She nodded slowly. That makes sense. What do you think? I asked. She placed both documents on the desk. I believe this newly discovered document deserves immediate investigation. Does that mean I have a chance? She answered carefully. It means the case is far from over. Hope slowly replaced the emptiness inside me. For the first time since the funeral, I felt like my parents were speaking to me again. Mr. Harris looked serious. You need to prepare yourself. For what? If this document is genuine, someone may have hidden it on purpose. I already knew the answer. Daniel. Linda raised her hand. Don't accuse anyone without evidence. I understand. But he searched the workshop. You saw that. The drawers were open. She wrote something in her notebook. That information could become important. I nodded. What happens now? We begin investigating. And if the truth comes out? Mr. Harris sighed. Your family will never be the same. I lowered my eyes. Part of me wanted the truth. Another part feared it. Daniel was still my brother. Even after everything, I remembered the boy who taught me to ride a bicycle and protected me from bullies. I never imagined we would end up fighting over our parents' final wishes. Linda closed the folder. Truth often comes with a price. I quietly answered, I'm ready to pay it. As I left the office with the empty envelope in my hands, I looked up at the sky. Dad, thank you. 4 days, I had believed I had lost everything. Now I finally had something stronger than hope. I had the truth. But I also knew that once I revealed it, there would be no turning back. A week later, the investigation officially began. Attorney Linda Brooks called me early that morning. We're meeting at Mr. Harris's office, she said. Come as soon as you can. I'll be there. When I arrived, several folders covered the conference table. Mr. Harris looked up. We've reviewed both wills. And? I asked. Linda folded her hands. There are too many differences to ignore. My heart raced. So I wasn't imagining it. No, she replied. You weren't. Mr. Harris pointed to one document. Your parents' signatures on the newer will don't match their earlier legal records. Does that prove it was changed? Not by itself, Linda answered. But it's enough to continue investigating. I let out a slow breath. For the first time, I felt someone believed me. Later that afternoon, Daniel called. What are you trying to do? He demanded. I'm trying to learn the truth. The truth is already written in the will. Maybe not. He became quiet. Then he said, You're embarrassing this family. I didn't start this. You just can't accept losing. I'm not fighting for money. He laughed. Keep telling yourself that. He ended the call before I could answer. The next day, Aunt Susan visited me. I heard about the investigation, she said. So did everyone else. She looked uncomfortable. I owe you an apology. I looked at her. For what? I believed Daniel. You weren't the only one. He sounded so confident. I know. She sighed. I should have listened to you. I gave her a small smile. Thank you. That simple apology lifted a weight from my heart. People were finally beginning to question what had happened. A few days later, Linda called again. We found something. What is it? Medical records. I frowned. What about them? They show your father was heavily medicated during the period when the second will was signed. I stayed silent. Linda continued. We're also interviewing people who visited him. Do they remember anything? Some do. Hope returned once again. That evening, Emma stopped by my apartment with coffee. You look tired, she said. I am. She handed me a cup. Any news? I told her everything. She listened quietly. When I finished, she smiled. I knew something wasn't right. I wish this had never happened. I know. I don't even recognize my own brother anymore. Emma looked at me. People change. I shook my head. No. He wasn't always like this. What was he like? I smiled sadly. When I was 10, some older boys tried to steal my bike. What happened? Daniel chased them away. She laughed softly. So he really protected you. He did. That's why this hurts so much. I stared at my coffee. I keep asking myself when everything changed. Emma gently touched my hand. Maybe greed changed him. Maybe. A week later, Linda invited me to another meeting. When I entered the office, a man was already sitting there. Linda introduced him. This is Richard. He stood up. I've worked with Daniel for years. I shook his hand. Nice to meet you. Richard looked nervous. I don't think your brother has been honest. What do you mean? He recently tried to sell company shares much faster than usual. Why? He said he needed money urgently. Linda wrote notes. Richard continued. I also heard him talking about making sure certain papers never appeared. My heart skipped a beat. What papers? I don't know. But he seemed worried. Linda thanked him. After Richard left, she looked at me. This strengthens the case. I nodded slowly. Daniel's carefully built image was starting to crack. People who once trusted him were beginning to step away. Days later, Daniel showed up outside my apartment. He looked angry. You've been talking to everyone. They're talking because they have questions. He stepped closer. You need to stop. I won't. This investigation will destroy everything. I looked him in the eyes. You should have thought about that before. He pointed at me. You think you're the victim. I lost my parents. So did I. Then why are we standing on opposite sides? He didn't answer. For a moment, I saw the brother I used to know. Then the anger returned to his face. He turned around and walked away. I watched him disappear down the street. Emma's words echoed in my mind. Seek the truth, not revenge. I repeated them quietly. I'm not doing this to hurt him. I was doing it because my parents deserved honesty. The lies were finally beginning to fall apart. And I knew it was only a matter of time before the whole truth came into the light. The courthouse felt colder than I expected. As I walked inside, I saw Daniel standing with his lawyer. He looked at me but quickly looked away. Attorney Linda Brooks whispered, Stay calm. Today is important. I will. When the hearing began, the judge listened carefully as both sides presented their arguments. Linda stood. Your Honor, We have witnesses and financial records that raise serious questions about the will. Daniel's lawyer immediately objected. The accusations are based on assumptions. Linda calmly replied, the evidence will speak for itself. The judge nodded. Proceed. The first witness was Mr. Harris. He explained how the hidden document had been found and why it appeared more authentic than the will he had originally read. After him, Michael testified. I knew both parents for years, he said. They always told me they loved both sons equally. Daniel looked uncomfortable. Then Mrs. Green took the stand. I remember seeing Mr. Carter carrying important folders to his workshop, she said. He told me he wanted everything to be fair. I lowered my head. Hearing those words made me miss my father even more. Next came Detective Owens. He placed several papers before the judge. We examined the family's financial records. The courtroom became silent. He continued, large amounts of money were withdrawn from Mr. and Mrs. Carter's accounts during Mr. Carter's illness. The judge frowned. Who authorized those withdrawals? They were made using documents signed while Mr. Carter was heavily medicated. I looked at Daniel. His face had turned pale. His lawyer quickly stood. My client denies any wrongdoing. The judge nodded. The court will consider all evidence. During the break, I stepped into the hallway. Rachel, Daniel's wife, walked toward me. She looked exhausted. I need to talk to you, she said quietly. About what? She looked around before speaking. I didn't know everything. What do you mean? I trusted Daniel. I stayed silent. She took a deep breath. Recently I found papers hidden in his office. My heart skipped a beat. What kind of papers? Bank statements and legal documents. Did you read them? Only enough to realize something was terribly wrong. She looked down. I asked him about them. What did he say? He became angry. She wiped away a tear. I've never seen him like that. I'm sorry. So am I. She shook her head. I don't know who my husband has become. Before returning to the courtroom, she quietly added, I'm telling the truth because your parents deserved better. Those words stayed with me. The hearing continued for several more hours. Every witness seemed to reveal another piece of the puzzle. Every answer made Daniel look more desperate. When the judge announced another hearing would be held the following week, everyone slowly left. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited near the entrance. Daniel pushed past them without saying a word. I watched him drive away. Emma walked beside me. How are you feeling? Tired. But I think the truth is finally winning. She smiled. I've believed that from the beginning. That evening, I sat alone with my father's letter. I had read it many times, but one sentence always stood out. Never let anger become your future. I whispered the words aloud. I've been so focused on proving Daniel wrong. Then I realized something. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted peace. The next morning, Linda called. I have good news. What happened? Daniel's business partner has ended their partnership. Richard. Yes. He no longer trusts Daniel. I nodded slowly. The consequences were growing. Not because I had attacked Daniel. Because his own choices were catching up with him. Days later, I saw Daniel sitting alone outside the courthouse before another hearing. For a moment, I almost walked past him. Instead, I stopped. He looked up. What do you want? I wanted to ask if you're okay. He laughed bitterly. You should be happy. I'm not happy. You've taken everything. I didn't. You did. I shook my head. No, Daniel. You lost everything because of your decisions. He didn't answer. For the first time, I saw regret in his eyes. As I walked away, I realized something important. Karma didn't arrive with anger. It arrived with truth. And the truth was taking away everything greed had built. I finally understood what my father had wanted me to learn. Winning wasn't about watching my brother fall. It was about refusing to fall beside him. That thought gave me more peace than revenge ever could. The day of the final hearing finally arrived. As I walked into the courtroom, I took a deep breath. This is it, Emma said beside me. I nodded. No matter what happens, thank you for standing with me. She smiled. You never had to face this alone. Inside, everyone was already waiting. Daniel sat quietly with his lawyer. He looked tired, and the confidence he once carried was gone. Judge Collins entered the courtroom. Everyone may be seated. The room became completely silent. Judge Collins looked at the documents in front of him. After reviewing all evidence, witness statements, and expert opinions, this court has reached its decision. My heart pounded. The hidden document discovered in Mr. Carter's workshop is declared authentic. I closed my eyes for a moment. The will presented after the funeral is ruled invalid. A wave of relief rushed through me. Judge Collins continued, the estate will be divided according to the original wishes of Mr. and Mrs. Carter. I could barely believe what I had heard. The truth had finally won. After the hearing ended, people slowly left the courtroom. Several relatives came over to me. Aunt Susan hugged me. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I should have trusted you. It's okay, I replied. You know the truth now. Mr. Harris smiled. Your parents would be proud of you. I hope so. Linda shook my hand. You never gave up. I almost did. But you didn't. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited again. This time I ignored them. I wasn't interested in attention. I only wanted peace. As I walked toward my car, I heard someone call my name. Wait. I turned around. It was Daniel. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, he looked down. I'm sorry. His voice was quiet. I made terrible choices. I studied his face. For the first time in months, I didn't see anger. I saw defeat. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said. I know. I let greed control me. I stayed silent. I thought if I had everything, I'd finally feel successful. Did it make you happy? I asked. He slowly shook his head. No. It only made me lose everyone. I looked at my brother. Part of me still remembered the boy who taught me to ride a bicycle. Another part remembered every lie he had told. I can't forget what happened, I said. I understand. But I don't want to spend the rest of my life hating you. He looked surprised. You don't? No. Hate won't bring Mom and Dad back. His eyes filled with tears. I wish I could change everything. So do I. He nodded once. I'll accept whatever happens now. Then he quietly walked away. Emma stepped beside me. How do you feel? Lighter. Because you won? I smiled softly. No. Because I don't need revenge anymore. A few weeks later, I stood in front of my parents' house. The property officially belonged to both Daniel and me, just as my parents had wanted. Daniel decided to sell his share to me. I don't deserve this place, he told me. It reminds me of my mistakes. I accepted his decision. Over the next several weeks, I repaired the old house. I painted the walls. I cleaned every room. I restored my father's workshop exactly as he had left it. One afternoon, Emma visited. The house smelled like fresh paint. She looked around and smiled. It finally feels like home again. I hoped it would. She walked into the garden. Your mother loved these flowers. I know. I planted new ones beside them. She looked at me. You've changed. So have you. No. She laughed. You've become stronger. I looked around the yard. Maybe she was right. The anger that had once filled my heart was gone. In its place was gratitude. That evening, I placed my parents' photographs on the living room shelf. I did it, I whispered. I kept my promise. I knew they would never walk through the front door again. But their kindness, honesty, and love still lived inside this home. As the sun began to set, I realized something. The greatest victory wasn't winning the inheritance. It was refusing to become the kind of person greed had turned my brother into. For the first time in years, I smiled without pain. I was finally free. 6 months passed faster than I expected. Life became quieter. The court case was over. The arguments had ended. For the first time in a long while, I could wake up without thinking about lawyers, evidence, or betrayal. One morning, Emma knocked on my front door. Good morning, she said with a smile. Come in. She looked around the living room. You've changed this place. I wanted it to feel like home again. It does. She pointed at the family photos on the shelf. They would have loved this. I smiled. I hope so. We spent the morning planting flowers in my mother's garden. As I dug into the soil, I remembered how she used to laugh whenever I accidentally planted them upside down. I laughed to myself. Emma looked at me. What? I was remembering Mom. I think she's smiling today. I'd like to believe that. After lunch, I walked into my father's workshop. His old workbench was still there. The hidden compartment was empty now, but every time I saw it, I remembered the letter that had changed everything. I quietly whispered, "Thank you, Dad." A few days later, my phone rang. It was Daniel. I stared at the screen before answering. "Hello." "Hi." His voice sounded different. Calmer. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me." "I'm listening." "I've started a new job." "That's good." "I wanted to tell you. I'm trying to rebuild my life." I stayed silent. He continued. "I've been attending counseling." I wasn't expecting that. I realized my greed didn't just cost me money. It cost you people. "Yes." He took a deep breath. "I lost my wife." I closed my eyes. "I'm sorry." "I don't expect sympathy." "I'm still sorry." There was a long silence. Finally he said, "Thank you for not trying to destroy me." "I never wanted to." "I know that now." Before ending the call, he quietly said, "Take care of yourself." "You too." When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. Not because everything had been fixed, but because I no longer carried anger inside me. That evening, Emma visited again. "You look happier," she said. "I think I finally am." She smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." We sat on the front porch watching the sunset. "I have a question," she said. "What is it? What are you going to do now?" I looked at the house. "I want this place to stay open." "For who?" "For family." She smiled. "And?" "I want people to remember my parents for their kindness, not for the court case." "I think they will." I looked at her. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." She laughed softly. "Yes, you could." "No. You reminded me to keep searching when I wanted to give up." She looked away for a moment. "I just believed in you." I smiled. "I'm glad you did." Over the following weeks, life slowly settled into a new routine. Neighbors stopped by for coffee. Children played in the garden again. The house felt alive. One afternoon, Aunt Susan visited with an old photo album. "I found this in my attic," she said. Inside were dozens of pictures of our family. There was one photo of Daniel and me as children sitting beside our parents. We were all smiling. I touched the picture gently. We were happy. Aunt Susan nodded. "You still have those memories?" "I'll always keep them." Before leaving, she hugged me. "Your parents would be proud of the man you've become." Her words meant more than she knew. That evening, I walked through the garden alone. The flowers moved gently in the wind. I looked toward the sky. "You didn't leave me riches," I whispered. "You left me something far more valuable." The hidden document had restored my inheritance. But it had also restored the truth. It showed me that honesty always outlives lies. It taught me that revenge can never heal a broken heart, but forgiveness can set it free. Most importantly, it reminded me that family is built on love, not money. I smiled as I looked around the home my parents had loved so much. For the first time since their funeral, I no longer felt like a man who had lost everything. I felt like a son who had finally honored the people who raised him. Their greatest gift was never the house, the savings, or the land. Their greatest gift was the truth that brought me back to myself. And as I quietly closed the garden gate behind me, I knew my future would no longer be shaped by betrayal. It would be shaped by hope, honesty, and the love my parents had left in my heart forever.